Hello everyone and welcome to the Metaverse Spectrum Business Conference and Expo. My name is Josh Drean. I am a Web3 advisor at the Harvard Innovation Labs. I am a core contributor to SoWork, the workplace metaverse, and I am co-founder of Drean Media, a creative and consulting agency. Very grateful to be a part of this conference. What an honor it is for me to be here. If any of you are in the audience right now, thank you for being here. It's such a privilege and an honor to talk about the metaverse and NFTs and crypto networks, all within the context of how it is shaping the future of work. So I like to have a pretty interactive session. Just give me some love in the chat. Here, I'm gonna start us off with a little hello. I'm sure that you've learned so much at this conference. You might be having a technical overload in terms of all of the terms that you've learned and the new data coming out around the metaverse. There's so much going on right now, and it's still in its infancy. So nothing is set in stone. As much as we as presenters want to convince you that we're right, the reality is we don't know. We're still building it. It's a concept that will eventually turn into a really cool technological advance that I think is going to change the world and especially the way that we work forever. But just know that all of this is great technology that we're still working on and still feeling out. I like to think back to the 1990s when the internet was first birthed.
What about this internet thing? Do you know anything about that?
Sure. And everyone was trying to figure out, how is the internet different from the radio? And why is watching a baseball game on the internet better than watching a baseball game on TV? And there were a lot of companies who were birthed out of that dot-com bubble that became the big four tech companies. I personally believe right now that there are many Apples, many Googles, many Facebooks out there right now who are building the future, and we should at least pay attention to what they're building, what their vision is of the future, because I feel like that will help you wherever you are. If you're in DeFi, if you're interested in crypto networks, if you're in the gaming industry, finding your way through all of this is a matter of coming to a conference like this, picking and choosing pieces that work for you, innovating on top of that, and creating the world that is your own little piece of the metaverse. I'm interested in helping you do that. My own little piece of the metaverse, what I care about the most, is how is this new technology going to impact the way that we work. Traditional work as it stands today is, I go to the office, I put in X amount of time, I go home from the office, kind of put work on the shelf, and return to whatever I was doing before I went to work. Drop it in the chat if you've seen Severance. It is a great show about a literal severance of work and life so that you don't actually remember what you do at work and your work person doesn't actually remember what happens on the outside. It's a drastic kind of split, but I also feel like that model just obviously doesn't work anymore. With the disruption of the pandemic, we've proven the data is set that we can be productive. But as we are returning to the office, there is a power dynamic happening where employers really want that micromanaged control over employees. And employees, for the most part, really like, connecting on a human level with their coworkers, but kind of liked being able to do their laundry while they were doing their work. They kind of liked going to a hair appointment because they knew they were going to open up their laptop at the end of the day. And although we did spend way too much time working during the pandemic, the future of work is not employment. The future of work is the metaverse. It's crypto networks. It's a decentralized organization that doesn't even look like traditional corporations of today's world. And that's the argument that I'm making here today, is that employment as we know it is dead. And we are moving to a Web3 remote distributed work model that is made possible because of the metaverse. Here's the interesting thing. The disruption of the pandemic kind of split us up into two camps. There's one camp that was, I can't wait until this gets over, and then the minute it's done, we're gonna invite everyone back to work, we're gonna go back to the way that it was. And there's another group of people who say, this disruption is a chance for us to innovate above and beyond anything that we've ever seen. The problem is we got stuck with unexciting tech. The tech that we use when we went remote lacked human elements. You know, when we talk about Zoom, I don't think anyone's like, I love Zoom. How cool. Like, it's a great tool because it allows us to do what we want to do, but there is a lack of human element there. Or being Slack bombed. You know, you step away from your computer for 30 minutes and come back and you have 100 messages and 10 deliverables that you have to do if you're not completely tuned in all the time. This, to me, is removing the human element of what's possible. I think the big argument with the metaverse right now is I don't want to move into a digital world where I forget my friends. I forget to be in person. I am holed up in my bedroom. You know, I've spent a lot of time in this room doing presentations like this where I used to get on an airplane and fly all over. It's okay that, like, we say remote work kind of sucks right now, because I personally believe we just don't have tech that will facilitate that humanness that is lacking. And I am an optimist. I believe that the metaverse that we can build will bring back a lot of those elements of being human. We want to be together. We want to interact. We haven't been able to do that remote, but in today's world, it's just not possible. We're getting there. And so when we build the metaverse, I feel like there's an exchange. I'll agree with you that in-person meetings, nothing beats it. You can read people's faces and their body language. You can have a more full connection. But more and more, the disadvantages of in-person meetings are being outweighed by the advantages of distributed meetings, of meetings, say, in the metaverse. Being able to access global talent is amazing. Now you don't have to get talent that's within a 50-mile radius of the office. You have the entire globe available to you. That alone is getting HR departments excited about what we can do remote. And so I believe that as we build the metaverse, we are building a place where we can be more human. Doesn't that sound awesome? A place where you can see your teammates sitting in the office. You can go up to a ping pong table and actually play a game with your coworkers. Instead of needing some help connecting with your team, where you have to go and Slack a bunch of message, write it out, send it, then you have to get the response back. Or even worse, you have to schedule a meeting and send it, and then have that meeting, and it ends up taking a lot longer than you thought. You can just run right up to someone who's available and say, hey, can I run this past you real quick? And so there's quick, easy interactions within the metaverse that is unlocking new streams of productivity within the metaverse. Really exciting stuff. I'm curious if anyone else is out there. In terms of Web3 technology, is anyone using something that they love? I would love for you to help us out a little bit. Share what you're using so that we can also use it, so that we can also promote it, so that we can also start to discover what's possible in the metaverse. All right, so that's the foundation of what I want to talk about. What I'd really want to dig into is, why is this going to be such a shift? For any of you who are doubters out there, and I have a feeling that if you're at this conference right now, you probably are drinking the Web3 Kool-Aid. If you probably have people in your life who are tired of changing, are tired of technology moving so fast, and are like, this is the last straw. I'm not joining the metaverse. I just learned how to use Slack or Zoom or be remote, and now I have to adjust again. The unfortunate reality of life is we don't sit still very long, and so it's important to embrace new technologies and move forward, because the future of work isn't held by the people who are living in the past. I think that's a pretty powerful statement, that if you are interested in continuing to use outdated technologies, it's going to be hard for you to even get in the right mindset to understand what the metaverse is. I think a perfect example is management. What is a manager? It's a technology that we invented in the industrial age to help get work done. It's like we have a group of people, they have a specific job, we're gonna manage them and make sure that they actually do their job. Well, in the information age, we don't need that anymore. We don't need a manager that stand over us and micromanage us. What we need is a flat organization, more of a bottom-up hierarchy where there's a commander's intent, meaning there's a job that we need to accomplish, but all of the little details are removed so that passionate individuals can do the best work that they know how to do and get there in their own personal way. What I'm highlighting right now is decentralization. That is the key term to making sure that all of this technology actually works. A decentralized system, let's look at a DAO, D-A-O, I'm sure you know this technology by now, but that's decentralized autonomous organization, is made possible because it sits on the blockchain and is facilitated by a smart contract so that core contributors can add value, as much value or as little value as they want, and they can own that value, which I'll get to in just a sec. A typical organization in today's world has a long org chart, and usually there's a group of central decision makers who trickle that information down to the bottom, and the frontline workers have to implement exactly what they tell you to do, and there's no other way to do it. If you don't want to do it that way, you can get out because we can hire someone else. That's a traditional model. In the information age, the frontline workers actually have a ton of valuable feedback, which is a whole nother talk around employee engagement. How do you collect that information? How do you implement those insights in a way that helps them have a better experience at work? But more so, how do we empower these employees to get their work done without a manager and in a Web3 way that if you do a great job, you get compensated for it? So the three big things that I believe will change are ownership in a decentralized world, flexibility, and agency. These are the three things that will change because employees will choose the metaverse. They will choose Web3. They will leave your organization. They don't care about you. They want the paycheck, obviously. They want the benefits, but they also want to live their passions. They also want to work for a cause. And if that organization doesn't narrowly fit into what they want, then, you know, they're going to be disengaged. But you can take them and you can put them in an environment where they thrive. And I believe that a crypto network, a DAO, is the place to do that. So let's start with ownership. The corporate world is extremely extractive. If any of you have worked in the corporate world, shout it out. When you sign on, there's a contract and it says any inventions or products or ideas or files or any stuff that you generate, any value that you create is property of the company. I don't know if that sounds ridiculous to any of you. It just blows my mind that's still how we do things. There are employees who have generated an immense amount of wealth for an organization, and they get compensated by a paycheck, by benefits. They might get a bonus if they've done a great job. That's not great, especially if there was a world where you could take that value, shop it around to other organizations and say, this is what I've built. Like, do you want to pick this up? And they pick it up and they buy it, and that ownership is the contributors. Work is shifting from a contract to a partnership. I spent a lot of time with HR leaders, CHROs, directors of people, and it's fascinating what I'm finding. There's kind of this move from like industrial age contract work, 9 to 5. Then we kind of moved to this like discretionary effort. How can we trick you into doing a little bit more work than that? And then we moved into the employee engagement space, which is, well, let's do hot yoga or offer daycare, or you can have lunch catered by the company. A lot of really great things that like attract you to work at Google. This gave birth to the employee experience era, which we're currently in, where we are designing custom individualized experiences for employees at work so that they can feel comfortable enough to perform well at the organization. It's a huge industry. There are tons of tech out there. HR Tech was 2 weeks ago. Tons of tech around employee engagement surveys and payroll and XYZ. The point I'm trying to make is that we've gotten to this place where it's like, dang, we better listen to employees, because if they're not having a great experience with the organization, they're gonna leave. What I am suggesting is that they're gonna discover a world very shortly where they get to actually own their content. They get to own their data. They get to own the inventions and the products and all the things that they generate for the company. That's theirs. And right now, our solution to this, right, and a great employee experience is, well, hey, if I give them equity in the company, they'll have skin in the game and they'll work better for us. The problem with that model is that the equity isn't actually tied to the work that they're doing. So you get some arbitrary percentage that has to vest over a certain amount of years before you actually see any of those shares. In Web 3.0, in the Metaverse, that whole model goes away, and the new model is, hey, you generate value as a creator, as an influencer, as a group of individuals on a Discord server who are just passionate about a certain subject and are building great value and shopping it around. Like, the smart contract will dictate that you get to keep that value. So I believe that the future of work is exciting for employees / contributors is because they get to own most, if not all, of the value that they generate. The second is flexibility. I think in a lot of times when we think of flexibility, we think of it in terms of like, how many hours do I have to work? And when can I do the things that I love? The Metaverse kind of blows up that model, or at least it expands it to be more inclusive around how many organizations do I want to work for? You will have many more options for different streams of income instead of just one term of employment. I don't believe that anyone's going to be contractually obligated to work for a company directly. You're going to be built off of partnerships. So instead of a contract saying I work full-time for this company, now it's, hey, here's the value that you can add. Here's the value that we need. Let's create a partnership, almost like a revenue sharing model of how we can work together to make it work. And there's a lot of really cool things happening there. I truly believe that the Metaverse allows us to work from anywhere. And finally, the third is agency. Do you get to make any real decisions on your own? Or do you have to go to the manual and do it exactly by the book as the company has outlined it? Instead of putting up a job listing where you want employees to come work for you, you're putting up a project that needs to be completed. And any DAO can compete for that project. They can get in there and they can say, we want to do this one, we don't want to do this one. It's almost like a super specialized boutique. Like a DAO can work with 10 of these types of DAOs who are bounty hunters, if you will, if we're going to use a term from the industry, the bounty economy, bounty hunters. That is a way for them to get in there and create that value. So the overall concept that I am driving at is that employment as we know it will evaporate and will give birth to a new type of work. It's a beautiful world of interoperable systems. It's not here yet, but we're getting there, and it's just a chance for us to finally evolve into who we know we can be. I'm telling you, I work with startups on a daily basis who have a glorious vision of what it can be, of what it will be, and I'm just really excited. I am extremely fortunate to advise them on what's happening in the industry and how they can pivot, position themselves in the market, and continue to build that. But I know that they're going to just launch into the world, create worlds that we have never even imagined virtually, and that will eventually become how we do work. Work 3, the future of work is not employment, it is the Metaverse. Woo! All right. I would invite all of you to just take a step back this weekend. Think about what you've learned at this conference. Think about the pieces that linger and stick with you, and use that to build something that you love. Once we jump in fully to what the Metaverse can be, there's so many opportunities for everybody. The possibilities are endless. Go out there and capture it, make it your own. Please stay in touch with me. Hit me up at Josh Drean on all of my socials. You can check out joshdrean.com, dreanmedia.com, or take a spin at a digital office in Sowork. But thanks again for having me, and we'll see ya.